Hey guys, I am Enthusiast, and today I'm here to talk about Lithos. Now, I've made videos before, but today I want to give a bit of a different perspective. Since the testnet is getting close to coming out, I wanted to do a video for potential miners and what type of information they're going to need when they start using the testnet. Just so you guys have a better idea of what to do and what kind of options you have. So, quick overview for those of you who don't know. Lithos is a decentralized mining pool protocol, which allows miners to connect to smart contract-based mining pools. These smart contracts ensure fairness. They give complete control of block production to individual miners. And miners using Lithos can select storage rent, they can select transactions, and they can even earn Erg through collateralization. This is just another overview of what we've already talked about, but yeah, in terms of the benefits of Lithos, you get complete control of block production on the side of the miners. That means that miners can select transactions, gain Erg through MEV, and they can choose what UTXOs they want to claim for demurrage or storage rent. In Lithos, payments are completely controlled by smart contracts, and that means that you're never getting cheated out of any Erg. It's fully transparent and it's fully fair. Lithos also uses collateralized mining pools. This is used to ensure decentralization, but also means that miners and people not involved in mining can earn Erg through collateralizing different mining pools, and essentially you're giving the Erg to the mining pool so that they can help create the block. And doing that allows you to earn a fee. Now, point 4, this is what I really want to focus on for this presentation. It's that Lithos, or rather the Lithos client, is a locally run program. Now, obviously that means latency and stale shares are not a factor when mining on Lithos. But more importantly, it also means that miners get full control over the difficulty parameter. And that parameter is going to be really important when using Lithos because it can tweak your profit levels. So let's talk about that. When you're mining on Lithos, you have obviously the Stratum server on your PC. And inside the Stratum server, you have the ability to control the difficulty of the shares you produce. In Lithos, this difficulty parameter is called D. And unlike other mining pools where the share difficulty is more about how many shares you create and whether or not it's overloading your network or whatever, that's not so important on Lithos. What's really important about the difficulty is that it can help you manipulate your reward consistency and the amount of Erg you get per block. So let's talk about using difficulty and why it works differently on Lithos. So Lithos is not using traditional miner payment systems. If you've been on other mining pools, you may know about systems like pay per share, pay per last end shares, etc. Lithos uses a new system based on non-interactive share proofs. Now, not going to get into weeds here about what that is exactly, but the important part for miners is that changing the difficulty inside this payment system changes how you are paid and how much you're paid. Now, when you first start mining using the Lithos client, your difficulty parameter will be automatically set based on your hash rate. For example, if you have a hash rate of 500 megahashes, your difficulty parameter in the configuration file for the Lithos client, it'll just say 500M. Once it's been set, you're free to adjust the difficulty up or down according to your own preferences. So let's talk about what exactly adjusting the difficulty will do. So this is a pretty simplified table, but it gives all the important information. So let's assume a miner with 500 megahashes decides to try mining on Lithos. Let's say the Lithos pool in total is 1 gigahash. So this miner is representing 50% of the hash rate for the pool. The table below shows how changing this miner's difficulty changes the total number of payments he gets, along with the amount of erg he gets per payment. So when this miner first starts using Lithos, their difficulty will be automatically set to 500M. Now this table shows a sample of how this miner's payments might look over 100 blocks. So when the miner sets their difficulty to 500M, they were able to get 98 payments. They got around 7 erg per payment, and the total amount of erg they got was 686 erg. This is again over 100 blocks, and the block reward was 14 erg for these blocks. So considering this miner represents 50% of the hash rate, they're getting 7.0 erg per payment. Now, if you look at the 300M difficulty, which is obviously significantly lower, the miner got 100 payments. They got 4.3 erg per payment and a total erg of 430. As for the 700M, the miner got 84 payments, 9.8 erg per payment, and they got a total of 823 erg. So as you can see, adjusting the difficulty value essentially proportionally increases the amount of erg you get per payment, while it's inversely proportional to the number of payments you get. So increasing difficulty means you get more erg per payment but less payments. Decreasing difficulty means that you get less erg per payments but more payments. Now, that's not exactly the full story. So yes, difficulty affects how much you get paid, and increasing the diff gives you more erg per payment, but in reality, the instability of payments with a high difficulty balances out the increase you get in erg. So this new table below shows what's called the max potential, and this is the maximum amount of erg the miner could have made within 100 blocks. So as you can see, for 300M, they could have made a maximum of 430 erg, which in this case they did because they got paid for all 100 blocks. For the 500M difficulty miner, maximum they could have made is 700 erg over 100 blocks. And for the 700M miner, the maximum amount of erg they could have made in 100 blocks is 980. So that looks good, obviously, but reaching the max potential is extremely unlikely because it requires that the miner is paid for all 100 blocks, which is significantly less likely the higher the miner's difficulty is. So what this means is that generally increasing the difficulty makes payments less stable, even though it increases the amount of erg you get per payment. So it's very unlikely in the end that someone hits their max potential. So increasing your diff doesn't necessarily guarantee you more money over a long period of time. And you can see that below with what's called the real potential. And that's the average erg per 100 blocks. So the maximum potential is the real amount of erg that somebody could get in 100 blocks, assuming that they're paid for every single block. In reality, that's unlikely, and the real potential shows the average amount of erg they're going to get per 100 blocks over a long period of time. So you can see that for 300M, the miner can only still make a maximum of 430 erg. For 500M, they can make a maximum of 700 erg per 100 blocks. And the same thing for the 700M. So as you can see, increasing the difficulty doesn't necessarily guarantee you more erg. Instead, it changes the consistency of your payments, and it changes, the local instability in the amount of erg you get for a small period of time. But as you can see, over a long period of time, it all balances out in the end. So what this means is that Lithos doesn't let you cheat to get more erg than you're deserved, right? If you have 500 mega hashes and you're mining at a 700 M difficulty, you're not going to get more erg per time in the end, it all balances out that you're still going to be getting the amount of erg that's proportional to your share of the pool's hash rate. And the table also shows that decreasing difficulty reduces your earnings. So it's not necessarily useful for, a level like 300M, but there may be times where your default difficulty level that you have is maybe a little bit too high and you feel that your payments are a bit too unstable. In that case, you may want to decrease your difficulty because then you'll be getting more payments and you'll just have a better idea and a better stability in terms of how often you get paid. Now, this sounds too complicated. I won't worry. Using the default value is probably good for most people. But if you want to try and maximize what you can get out of Lithos, I would definitely look into playing around with the difficulty. And if you're on the testnet, especially, I would really appreciate if you could try to mess around with the difficulty as much as possible. See how you could break things in a way. This is a new protocol, so there's always going to be unexpected, emergent properties that could come out. So I think it's good if you're on the Lithos testnet. It'll be good for you to play around with different difficulty values, see whether or not you can maybe get lucky. If you increase the difficulty, maybe you hit a lot of earnings. Or, if you feel that things are unstable, you could try decreasing your difficulty and see if that helps with that. Just in general, I think it's good to mess around with the difficulty. You'll probably be able to get more out of your mining that way as well. And specifically for Autolycus too, if you can try to factor in the table generation time into your mining and your hash rate, you could figure out probably a better difficulty for your specific hardware, because table generation time can vary depending on your hardware. So if you can factor that in, you can get a better difficulty value that works better for your machine, and that'll maximize your profits in the end. So lastly, let's just talk about the mining features that'll be available in the Lithos testnet. So as we've stated here, we'll have difficulty adjustment, and I'm working on this right now, but we'll have demurrage in the Lithos testnet client as well. For demurrage, it'll automatically be collected by the Lithos client, so there shouldn't be anything that you need to do specifically. Just watch out for it and make sure that things are working smoothly. For MEV and transaction selection, those aren't our biggest priorities at the moment. So they won't be integrated into the UI in testnet, but I mean, theoretically, if you wanted to, it's possible to manually implement it. It's obviously completely possible by the protocol. It's just not supported by the UI yet. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you're able to learn more about how to use Lithos for the upcoming testnet, and maybe you can play around with the difficulty values there and see how mining on Lithos feels compared to normal pools. Anyways, thank you again for watching, and keep updated with Lithos. We'll have more news coming out soon about the testnet. See you guys.